You know how last week I called off 3 days in a row? You know that very same day that I come back to work, Master gonna chop my arm off? Oh yeah, that's right, yeah. No verbal warning, no written reprimand, no, he just goes straight for the nuclear option. No, you are right, I do need to call my lawyer. While I was on vacation, Kanye West came out and put on a MAGA hat and said that both he and Trump had dragon energy. Then he went on TMZ and said this.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is black.
And then all anyone could think of was this. You know what? I hope Master does fire me. I'll sit at home and collect unemployment. I don't care. So Harvey can't believe what Kanye just said. So he asks him to clarify his previous statement, and then Kanye says this.
Can I go back to something you just said? Because I don't want to let it pass. You said that slavery was around for 400 years. At a point, it becomes a choice?
Yeah, right now we're choosing to be enslaved. We're like, okay, so Ebro, I FaceTime him, and I'm there with Candice, right? And Ebro starts bringing up his version of facts, right? And Candice has facts. She's researched, right? Candice Owens has facts. She's researched. And then Candice just pulls out her Jedi lightsaber and just...
Now, I believe that what's going on is that Kanye West is waking up from the Matrix. He's having a red pill moment, not just politically, but also spiritually. He's being flooded with tons of new ideas. And all of this is very overwhelming, and he wants to share everything that he's learning with the world. It's just that he's doing it in a way that is not meshing with the masses. Look at the difference in these two statements. Donald Trump and I are both very instinctive, we have great foresight, and we're natural born leaders. Versus, Donald Trump and I are both dragon energy. Both of these statements mean the same thing. I know this because I went to Kanye West's Twitter account where he defines what dragon energy means to him. It's just that one of these statements is palatable to the masses, and the other statement is going to cause people who aren't thinking free to laugh at you. In regard to Kanye West's statement about slavery being a choice, if you go to his Twitter account, you'll see that he cites a quote that is attributed to Harriet Tubman, and that says, and I might not be directly quoting it, that I freed 1,000 slaves. And I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. Now, there is some dispute over whether or not this quote is actually attributed to Harriet Tubman or not. But regardless of if she said it or not, it is still an interesting statement, and it speaks to the idea of mental slavery, or the condition of mental slavery, which is what I believe he was trying to express. The problem with this, however, though, is in the black community, slavery is still an open wound. If you look, for example, at even my family, I'll give you a personal example here. I never knew a slave. However, I did have the opportunity to know my great-grandfather, and my great-grandfather's father was a slave. Things were very different for my great-grandfather than they were for me, but I was still very much influenced by his experiences. He would talk to me about how he wasn't able to go to school, and the only way that he was able to receive any kind of education was that he would actually go to court, and he would sit in court and listen to lawyers speak, and that's all he could do to educate himself. And even if I jump down to somebody like my mom's age, my mom's generation, my mom was in the South for Jim Crow. And she had experiences where my grandfather, her father, who is my color, would have to drive the car while my mom and her mother and my uncle, who were all dark-skinned, would have to hide, because this was back in the days when they were, shooting black people for sport. So as soon as Kanye said that slavery was a choice, the conversation ended. Not the conversation between him and Harvey and the TMZ staff, but the conversation between him and the majority of the black Americans who were watching at home. And nobody heard a word he said after that, which is really a shame, because he was talking about a lot of really good concepts, like thinking for yourself and positivity and just spreading love. Now, if you were to make the argument that slavery at some point becomes a choice, not that I would make this argument myself, but if I were to do this, here's how I think you could do this in a way that wouldn't turn people off. Would be not to cite slavery in America, but to go back and cite slavery in Sparta. Because if you cite slavery in Sparta, you're not going to be pulling band-aids off fresh wounds and opening up, you know, all this upset and feeling and causing people to shut down and not listen to your argument. But I would say this, so in Sparta, the slaves vastly outnumbered the Spartans. I've seen numbers anywhere from like 7-to-1 to like a 20-to-1 ratio. And you could then say, hey, you guys are only being held here because of a mental state. Now, I still wouldn't say that, but I think that that's probably one of the better ways you can make that argument and not turn people off. And then one other thing, Kanye, if you're having a true awakening, then you're going to have to renounce all that weird satanic stuff that you've done before. You can't say things like, I sold my soul to the devil.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
And run around wearing Baphomet shirts. And then at the same time, promote love and positivity. Because no one can serve two masters. That's a bit of a biblical quote there. Kanye, you have all this reach and all this influence, and if you could just articulate your arguments properly, instead of touching and awakening thousands, you could reach millions. Kanye did mention that he had a problem with opioid addiction, so I just hope and pray that he gets the medical help that he needs. If you like this video, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. I'm right from right, left of center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.